Support for Seattle Now comes from the Pacific Northwest Waterways Association with the Columbia Snake River System, providing clean energy and sustainable commerce as Washington aims for carbon neutrality by 2030. Learn more at pnwa.net/rivervalues.
Hey, it's Patricia Murphy. It's Tuesday, and this is Seattle Now. Well, here we are, Election Day 2020. If we're being real, this year I'm feeling less excitement about the election. Uncertainty is the rule right now, no matter who wins. And that's a hard feeling for some of us. In a minute, Seattle therapist Roy Fisher has some tips to help with your Election Day worry. But first, let's get you caught up. Ballots continue to flow into drop boxes around Western Washington, and turnout has been big in Washington state so far. Over 1 million ballots have now been returned to King County elections alone. That's about 75% turnout. If you haven't voted yet, you can still turn in your ballot to a drop box until 8 p.m. tonight or send it in the mail. It has to be postmarked as of today, November 3rd, to be counted. 28 residents of a Department of Corrections work release facility in Seattle have tested positive for the coronavirus. Seattle Times reports there have been 53 cases total at Bishop Lewis work release on First Hill. The DOC told the paper there was a 4-day delay in testing due to the weekend and a state-mandated furloughed Monday. Residents who tested positive have moved to county housing for people with COVID-19. And election results roll in tonight. Washington's first ballot count will be released shortly after 8 p.m. Just a reminder, it's normal if several races in the state are up in the air, and the ballot count is released once a day until they're done. So you can tune in each day or not. Washington's Secretary of State, Kim Wyman, who's defending her position, will certify the results on December 3rd. Here we are on Election Day. But rarely in this country has it felt so loaded. Political divisions, the pandemic, and above all, the uncertainty of the future. The stakes feel very high. And for a lot of people, that's causing anxiety. How'd you sleep last night? Self-care is really important, especially as we head into the darker days of winter. So we called up Seattle therapist Roy Fisher to get some ideas about how to get through the election and whatever happens next. Hey, Roy, good to talk to you again.
Thanks for having me, Patricia.
Thanks for taking the time. I think everybody, regardless of who you're voting for, is feeling anxious about the election. I've heard everything in my friend group from I'm excited, kind of rare, to I'm packing a bag just in case. What are you hearing from your clients generally about how they're doing?
A lot of the same stuff. I've gotten just an uptick in people just experience this low grade anxiety, don't know what's happening, not feeling comfortable with life, just a lot of fear, and then what to do with it. A lot of my parents are wondering how to have conversations with their kids. Should they have conversations with their kids? So people just don't have a frame of reference for what's happening, and that makes it really hard to know what to do next.
That's an excellent point. I think the words coming out of my skin have been said many, many times about the feeling a lot of people are having right now. What kind of tips can you give people for trying to get through the day? How do you advise your clients?
It's so hard because, again, without the frame of reference, human beings, we're habitual in the things that we do, right? It's like we have an idea. This is what's happening today. Therefore, I will do this. So without having that frame of reference, it's really hard to kind of ground people in what they can do or what their options are. So I try to narrow the focus. So rather than thinking at things on this really big and grand level that seems so untenable right now, it's like, okay, what do you have control over? Where's your sphere of influence? And let's just focus on that and try to get some wins that way.
Sure. What's your plan for the election today?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna sit at home. I have my notifications off on my phone. So actually, if it does chirp at me, I know it's going to be either my family or something about sports, so that I'm not, being triggered by my phone buzzing next to me.
Self-preservation, the first line of defense, Roy.
Definitely.
Right. As a reporter, I kind of have to stay involved in the election. But if you're not working today, you can turn off your notifications. You can shut off Twitter and shut off Facebook and just take a few moments for yourself.
I think that's important. Whatever the strategies are that help you feel good about yourself, lean into those things. If it's taking a walk, if it's talking to friends, if it's working out in ways that are safe, obviously, it's like whatever it is that helps you manage life generally, do more of that.
Yeah, because there are so many things that feel out of our hands right now. And even the national election, we're not a battleground state. Nobody was out here trying to win Washington. Yet it seems like the stakes are so high. So much is happening with limited control. Staying resilient is so important. And it's easy to forget that. Yeah,
it is. We get into this doomsday space and that the world is falling apart. And while it seems like it is, and I'm not trying to minimize the moment in time that we are in, history tells us that we will bounce back. We don't know what it's going to look like, but our history tells us we are a resilient people, a resilient species, a resilient country. So we are going to manage this. It's just what it's going to look like. And so I think, again, being able to think big too, even though I said we need to narrow our focus, we also should look further into the future and wonder what we can do to help ourselves at some point in the future feel better.
Yeah, balancing those two ideas about what could be possible in the future versus what in your, like you said, sphere of influence, what you can control. There has been a lot of racial tension during this election cycle. The protests after George Floyd's death motivated a lot of people, right, to no longer look away to the racism in our country. But really, in some ways, it's just the beginning for white people. How is this election landing for the Black community right now?
It's an interesting space because I think, and I'm going to speak from this one man who is a Black man as opposed to speaking for the Black community. And I think I said this last time I was on, is that this isn't new. If we're talking about this for generations, 400 plus years, we have had multiple administrations where African Americans have struggled, have been ignored, have been taken advantage of. So while this election seems bigger in some ways, it is still par for the course for the Black experience in the United States. And I think that's how I'm looking at it. And it's another reason why I'm not necessarily really blown out about a lot of the things that have been going on, because it's been par for the course for many Black folks in their experience of the United States.
Sure. There has been a lot of talk about this election week potentially turning violent, about regardless of the outcome of the election, either side turning violent. What should we leave people with who may be feeling extremely anxious about the potential for violence?
I think it's how do we keep ourselves safe? What are the strategies we can do in the communities that we live in to be safe? At the end of the day, we are all still human beings and we're connected by that. I'm a relational therapist. It's like I believe that we exist in relationship to others. And so how do we form good relationships so that we can manage challenging times? Yes, I anticipate that we're going to have a revisiting of some of our protests and the violence in the summer, regardless of how this shakes out. I just wonder how that's going to help. What are the ways that, again, we can connect with people, have conversations? I'm a clinician, so it's always about talking and trying to increase our awareness, our insightfulness. And so those are the things that I choose to focus on while recognizing that we have to navigate the violence.
Sure. So in the moment, staying safe for the short term, but envisioning perhaps how you can be part of the solution in the long term is really important right now.
Definitely. Both and. Right. It's not an either or proposition where this is a both and. Yes, we are scared and we can be resilient. Yes, there are going to be a number of people who lash out and we can find ways to build relationships. It does not need to be either or.
Seattle-based therapist Roy Fisher, great to talk to you. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Seattle Now. The show is produced by Matt Martin, Clare McGrane, Sophie Reed, Caroline Chamberlain Gomez, and Jason Pagano. Matt Jorgensen does our music. I'm Patricia Murphy. See you tomorrow. Hey there. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Every day, our goal at Seattle Now is to bring you insightful, relevant information about this city and beyond. We're living in challenging times, and we're here, listening. But we can't do this work every day without your support. Pitch in any amount that's right for you by using the donate link in our description. And thanks.